Hi, I'm Dr. Rich Blana, host of the Conquering Your Stress podcast. In this, the 33rd edition of the podcast, I'm going to talk about New Year's resolutions. And why not get your year off right by making a New Year's resolution that's related to something you value about your life that'll help you reduce your stress? The word resolution itself is based on the root word of resolve, which means to really solve something by changing or converting. And in the case of New Year's resolutions, what most people try to change or convert are bad habits or unhelpful behaviors. So for example, if you made a resolution to start meditating, for example, you would really also be saying, I really want to stop being so unfocused. So in other words, I'm changing that unfocused part about me and really starting to develop greater focus. All new beginnings, whether they're for a new year or for the rest of your life, start with setting goals and measurable objectives. And viewing New Year's resolutions as goals that can be measured through discrete action steps or objectives is a really good way to kind of break things down into manageable units that you can actually achieve. And that's something I found really helps you reduce stress, because when your resolutions are really vague and unstructured and immeasurable, they can create stress rather than reduce it. One of the big problems I've seen regarding New Year's resolutions is that a lot of the time people make resolutions based on what they think they should do. You know, they feel guilty about not doing something, or they base resolutions on what other people think they should do. And resolutions that are based on what other people think you should do and what other people value are really doomed to fail. So to counter this, you need to start making values-based New Year's resolutions based on your values. And these will kind of chart the course for the direction you want your life to take over the next year. And the other thing is, when you're making New Year's resolutions, they don't always have to be based on things that are problems that you're not doing well. You can make a resolution to improve something you're already doing. So if you've already started to do some stress management activities, let's say you've started to meditate but you do it very infrequently, you might make a resolution to meditate on a regular basis, to increase the frequency or the duration, to meditate longer. So to really set values-based resolutions, you really have to start spending a little time thinking about what you value. And a simple way to do this is to think of, what would a stress-free day be like? You know, if you could construct a stress-free day, what would the criteria be? And I'd like you to include your work as well as your life, your play, your recreation, all the different things that are part of your life, but think about constructing them in a way that they would reduce stress rather than contribute to it. So what kind of work would you be doing? Where would you be working? How long would you be commuting? Who would you be working with? What kind of energy would you bring to your work day? Who would you be living with? Where would you be living? What would you be doing in your spare time, and who would you be doing it with? So think about all of the things that will contribute to a stress-free day, and try and come up with 5 to 10 of them that really are your core criteria for that perfect stress-free day. Now when you're done with that, I'd like you to look at those criteria, those daily life criteria for a perfect day, and see if you can come up with the values they represent. For example, when I did mine recently, some of my criteria were to work less and to work out of the house instead of in the house, because I had been working a lot in my basement office, and I decided that I wanted to try to separate work and home a little bit more. And so I'd work less and work out of the house. I would work part-time instead of full-time. And we'd live somewhere warm, close to the beach, rather than in a suburb. And on my off time, I'd be spending more time with my wife outdoors, doing things we love, like play tennis and kayak and bicycle. And we would make love more often. And so when I listed these things, and I would write every day in a perfect day, and I would read something every day in a perfect day, and I would teach someone something in a perfect day. So when I looked at my daily life criteria, writing, teaching, exercising, being outside, I started to look at some of the underlying values, and things that I really value are physical activity, sexual intimacy, creativity, warmth, a more natural environment, and working less, fewer hours. And so I set out originally when I did this, several years ago, to make that the basis of my 5-year plan. And my most recent attempt at this activity, I made it in my 1-year plan. And I was able to, with some long-term planning, actually realize a lot of those goals this year. So I'd like you to chart the same kind of course. I'd like you to start with this perfect day activity. Come up with 5 to 10 things that would be your daily life criteria for the perfect day. Look at the underlying values that those DLCs represent, and then pick 1 or 2 for 2013 and set a couple of measurable objectives around those. So for example, if one of your DLCs is to spend time outdoors in nature, that's a very spiritual activity that can help you reduce your stress. So to write that in a measurable way, you have to follow the question, which is who will do how much of what by when? Who will do how much of what by when? So you might write an objective and structure it by the end of March. I will be spending at least an hour 3 times a week engaged in some outdoor activity that I love. So then by the end of March, you could actually look and see, did you get out 3 times a week for an hour to do something outdoors that you really love? And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be walking, it could be swimming, it could be just sitting by the beach. But the idea is structured in a way that you can go back and evaluate whether or not you met that objective. And by setting reasonable goals and measurable objectives, you give some structure to this whole idea of resolutions, and they become more accomplishable, and can reduce your stress. So good luck setting some clear goals and measurable objectives for the coming year related to your stress, and we'll talk more about this next month.